Oh, hi. So I have this illustration which I made in Procreate, and as you can see, it's underwater scene. And then I have bunch of illustrations of underwater animals which I want to implement into this scene. But can I just copy paste them into this underwater scene and they will not look like just basically copy paste? Okay, this is a little bit awkward to hold, but anyway, at least you can see it, I hope. So in this video, I want to share with you 3 tips which you can easily implement in your illustrations while creating underwater scenes. So let's look into it. So from this scene, I will just take the layers with the turtle. I will go back to the gallery and I will open the new illustration and I will drop these layers on the top. So as you can see, the turtle is placed in the illustration and it fits quite well with the other colors, but I think it's still pretty huge. So first thing that I can do with this one, I will just scale it down so it fits the environment, and I think the placement here on top right is pretty nice. And now I will just implement some of the other animals and I will just import them the same way. I especially like this one where I have these leopard sharks because of the patterns. I think they are super cute. So I will take the leopard sharks as well, find the scene we just dropped the turtle in, open the layers, and I will drop the sharks here into the scene as well. But I think how they are placed now, I will need to find a different placement for them because right now they are on one layer. So I need to obviously separate them, and I'm using usually selection tool so I can move the sharks around within the composition so it fits the story a little bit better. All right, so now I have all the animals that I selected first in this scene. So we have the leopard sharks, the turtle, and the seals. And now let's just add some details so they look less copy-pasted in this scene. So one of the things you can notice here is that the seals in the background look quite like they are copy-pasted because, well, there is all sorts of stuff floating around underwater, so it limits our visibility in the distance. So it will make the object and the animals appear a little bit more blue or less saturated in scenes like these, even though we have more saturated colors which are not hyper realistic because this is more semi-realistic illustration style. So what I can do with the seal layer, where I have all the seals, I can just reduce the opacity of them and they will instantly look more as a part of the scene, and it will help us create the depth in our illustration. As you can see, this small quick adjustment helps us create this nice depth in this illustration. All right, so this is something which you can implement very easily in these underwater scenes. All right, so that was easy enough, I think. And here is the second tip. The next thing, what I want you to notice is that the sun is breaking here on the water surface, which you might already notice, and then we have these sun rays coming through the water. And some of that light gets through the water and then reflects on the object. So you can see these nice white or bright highlights that you can implement on the objects in the scene. But after we imported these animals in the scene, you can notice that they don't have any highlights on their skin or top of their back, so they automatically look like they don't belong into the scene. So one quick fix which you can do is implement the same light reflected off the animals, and that will help you to create more coherent look in your illustration like this right away. So let's just do that on a separate layer. I will create a new layer and I will use one of my detailing watercolor brushes because this illustration was created with watercolor brushes. So I want to keep the consistent look, and now I can just add some highlights on top of the animal illustrations. Yeah, I think that looks good. And now let me show you one more thing which you can implement into your underwater illustrations to help you create a coherent illustrations. All right, now I added highlights to most of the animals in my illustration, and you can see that it right away helps us to tie the whole illustration together, even though we have this very vibrant color palette for this specific scene. But if you still feel like some of the animals don't belong or fit well into your illustration, or they are basically blending too much within the environment, here is another thing which you can do. You can go to adjustments and you can go to hue, saturation and brightness. So for example, if the saturation is not enough or high enough for your illustration, you can higher up the saturation of the animals. And because I have only the layer with sharks selected, you can see this effect mainly on these animals. So maybe you decided that they might look even better or stand out more as a less saturated or desaturated object in your illustration. Well, not the object, it's an animal. But you can also play with the hue slider here on the other side and just test out different colors for the animals in your illustration, and I think that's actually quite fun thing to do as well. For example, this blue version of these sharks is quite fascinating. Alright, so after creating this first scene, let me create another one with more animals. So you can compare the two and you can let me know which one you like more in terms of storytelling, composition, or maybe just animal preferences. So let me just create the second one. So for the second composition, I want to use these stingrays or manta rays, and I will import them into the scene as well. So here are the stingrays implemented into the composition. And like before with the other scene, I will repeat the process with adding highlights to these animals as well. And then I will show you the two compositions comparing different animals, and I will move them around, I think, slightly. So I will show it to you in a second, and then you let me know which one is your preferred version. Alright, so here are two versions. So we have this first one with the leopard sharks, seals, and a turtle. And in this one, I actually moved the turtle up here and moved around the sharks even more. So there is this different composition or different story with the sharks floating around, and maybe one curious seal which came here into this part of the scene. And then I have this other composition where I have all these stingrays or manta rays and a turtle here. Alright, so now I have two concepts which I quite like both of them because they are different animals in them. So I would love to know which one is your preferred version. Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you want to learn and practice the whole process of illustrating the whole background underwater scene, you can find the links in the description below. And I hope to see you there. So thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye!